Hello everyone, welcome once again to Investing with a Difference. So today we are going to talk about one of the news which is floating around in the circles around EOS, that is the sale of assets or Block.one stake by Mike Novogratz. And I think a lot of people are asking me what does it mean, why it is positive or negative news, and so on. So with all the experience I have in private equity, I can try to give you some views on how these things work, and some of the things which people are ignoring very conveniently while trying to portray this news in various different ways. So let me get back to that news. But before we do that, let me show you some of the messages which came out from Brendan Bloomer himself on Telegram. And he talked about, like he came and made sure that he can clarify things. And he talked about, let me go up in this Telegram thread. And he said that he clarified that they have been buying back shares, like Block.one has been buying back its shares from the shareholders, and they are trying to bring in more and more strategic investors. So last year when they raised money, they actually did not issue any more stocks. They did not try to dilute the existing shareholders, and they gave the Peter Thiel and Alan Howard and Louis Bacon, who are very, very influential people in private equity world. They are some of the biggest VC names you can think of, and they brought them on board without diluting, and they used the share buyback from existing investors. This serves multiple purposes. It helps the early investors to realize their profits because it went up very fast, and some of the people are happy booking those profits. And also it helps as a shareholder, like for example Brendan Bloomer himself must own a big chunk of shares, and a lot of other people who are the early investor and founders, they don't want to dilute their holdings when they are trying to bring new investors. That's why they buy back shares instead of issuing new shares. Now what he's trying to highlight is this round which they are raising, they are trying to buy back these shares and not necessarily trying to like people are not selling. This was an initiated in effect. Basically Block.one is perhaps looking for other investors to be brought in, or they believe it's a good time to buy. Now let me go to the Bloomberg article. Bloomberg usually and also one more thing which Brandon highlighted is that the article written by the author of Bloomberg, they had shared much more information, and he chose how to portray this news, and he did not put it very positively, and that's why they are a little bit upset, and that's why he was trying to clarify this to the community. Now let me get back to the news itself. Now they talked about the kind of, like for example somebody who invested in 2017, how he must have got 66 times returns. Like 66 times of your investment is huge. So the valuation when they launched EOS and Block.one was launched in 2017, at that time it was only $40 million, and right now if you go down in this article, they talk about the buyback has been done at a price of let me see, they're talking about $1,200 each, and the valuation is $2.3 billion. Now 40 million to 2.3 billion, this is one of the fastest growing company in any space. Forget about blockchain, forget about any equity. I have not seen any other company growing like that in valuation in less than 2 years. Now of course the early investors, some of them want to cash out, and Mike Novogratz is one of them who says he has been suffering because of the rest of his crypto investments have gone down, and Block.one is one of the best investment he made. So he is rebalancing his portfolio. So he decided to give his shares to Block.one, which is maybe buying back. Now let me tell you, very, very interesting. Within this article, you have all the information you need to understand why you would do that. Now Bloomberg also mentioned that in February, end of February, Block.one had 3 billion in assets. That means they were carrying cash and investments worth 3 billion, and they are holding most of these in like US government bonds, which is very, very safe investment, and they also hold 140,000 bitcoins, which was like valued at $500 million. So now it's already doubled from there, from February. So this 3 billion which they are talking about is already worth more than 3 billion. And if they are able to buy back their shares, so this is only assets we are talking about. It. We are not even talking about all the other investments they are making. As you already know, the EOS VC has been investing very heavily in EOS projects. So it's a huge amount of equity which they own right now in other projects, and they have teams, they have technology which they can keep monetizing for a very long time. And with only just the assets which they own in the company, it's way more than $3 billion, and they are able to buy back the shares at 2.3 billion valuation. Now, why would you not do that? That means the investors are willing to sell their shares and cash out, while I'm sure they can bring in more and more investors right now because it's at a discount to their assets, which is never the case in anywhere in the world. Nobody can buy a company's shares for less than the liquid asset, the US government bond, which are one of the safest investment. They're holding this much money in US government bonds itself. So it's one of the safest investment, and they can easily sell this stake to somebody else. Now, this is all the data I'm using from the same article, which some of them are people are assuming that because these investors are selling is a negative news. If you just read it carefully, you will understand that it's very obvious of why the company would buy back shares when right now, because they believe that they are worth much more than that, while market may not be these particular investors are willing to sell it at a discount to their actual worth. So this is where I think just want to make sure people understand all this news. In addition, I think because Brandon and Dan both were there on the Telegram, a lot of good stuff came out. They clarified about all these rumors about people are being very unreasonable, expecting big things from EOS. And one of the things is they definitely clarified that there is no US government partnerships, there is no Apple partnerships, and so on. Dan himself has clarified that. In addition, I think they also confirmed that it is going to be a social media. And so if you go here, Dan and Brandon both confirmed that this will be some sort of a kind of products, like multiple products, not just one, and multiple announcements. And it will include some of these good like social media, which is in decentralized world. So he's talking about there will be some good branding. They also rejected the MEOS, the MEOS. MEOS name will not be what they are using. They confirmed that EOS name will not be there. It will be a totally new branding. It will be like people will not know that they're using blockchain. So a lot of things they confirmed yesterday, which I'm glad, because I think it was very unreasonable speculations happening in media, and we just wanted to make sure that everybody has reasonable expectation. Ultimately, they are a technology company. They are releasing EOS.io software. Yesterday when we did the video, I showed you how all the great developments Block.one is doing in terms of SDKs, in terms of tools they are releasing on a daily basis. I think that is where we should be excited about. And Dan being one of the best developer in blockchain space we have seen, I think this is what we should look for. And that's why, of course, he was excited, and people just kept on extrapolating on that. So I would like to just go back and say that this is something which is very important when we are talking about some of these ideas of what EOS can be and what Block.one can bring. We have to be careful, not unnecessarily pumping. I think EOS is not one of those projects where you need to create the pumps based on rumors, and we want to focus on building. And as we discussed yesterday also, and we keep discussing on this channel, it is one of the best platform where people are building. Some really amazing use cases are coming, and this news about buyback or any of these things, I have been in this space for a very long time, been associated with many VC funds. This is very common. We are putting unnecessarily too much of analysis into it. It's actually a matter of some investors who got 66 times of their original investment. They're saying, okay, why don't I cash out? And some others saying, oh, this company is at discount and let me go buy. In this case, when there are multiple investors who are willing to come in, and maybe more influential investors who are willing to come in, Block.one may have decided that it's not a good idea to keep raising more money when they already have so much liquid assets. Instead of that, they can go and repurchase from the existing investors. and this is very common. This happens all the time, especially for the successful companies like Block.one. As you can see, in 2 years they have given some amazing returns, and this churn of investors will always happen because not everybody wants to invest in a billions of dollar company. Some people are mostly seed investors, and some are more ready to invest when things are more mature. So you always have churn of investors, and this is exactly what I keep highlighting when as part of the Blockstart initiative which we have, we are investing in the companies, we are helping these startups in EOS.io world how to approach, and these are some of the things which we keep talking about. So if you're already engaging with us, we already explain these things to these companies who are building, of how to think about VC money, how to understand these things. And if you are one of those who are building on EOS, or who wants to build, or who wants to learn more, you can always contact us, and we can always give you more details on how these things work. Moreover, I would like to also highlight that if you're building your project, do contact us. I will be in DC. We will be able to talk to you and help you in many different aspects. And finally, we are also inviting the investors. Like, I think a lot of people are wondering, a few people have coming to me and saying that EOS VCs are investing in EOS projects, but if you are investing, people are mostly looking for ICOs and coins, which is not very safe. There are opportunities in the private equity world where you can directly invest in these companies as equity, and those are the kind of things we can help you understand how the private equity work. And EOS.io, what I am seeing today, a lot of the companies where you are not even seeing those because there is no coin issued, you don't see them listed on these decentralized exchanges. There's amazing amount of projects being built, and we are talking to them every day, and those guys are building real world application using EOS, and that is what the real value of EOS is as the mainnet. Whatever we discussed about Block.one, the Block.one stake is independent of that. Block.one is a private equity company which is providing software. EOS value is in the community which is building, and the projects which will be running on top of EOS. And those are building totally they are not going to be directly adding value to EOS, just like Block.one equity doesn't add direct value to EOS token value. Those guys, I think either you can invest in those, like you cannot invest in B1, but people are looking for those investments. And if you are like angel investor, if you are a seed investor, these are the opportunities you should look for, where real money will be made by people. And so again, as I said, this is something which we deal with as Blockstart, as our initiative on supporting this app. So we are very actively working with these apps. We are trying to bring in all kind of people. So do learn about how things work, I think, before you go into this crypto world of news, where news is always bent and it's not always fair to the projects. So this is something which I wanted to cover in this video. I hope it helped. But we are always happy to engage in discussion and educate you about how this whole business will work. I think EOS is way beyond what the other crypto projects are. They are all tied with a token. They're all trying to pump their tokens. EOS is actually building businesses on top, and that's where I think people are not realizing that this whole crypto media and the bloggers and so on, or these websites, they don't understand that part, and they just think of everything being positive or negative for the EOS mainnet or the EOS coins. And EOS coin is just a utility token for accessing EOS network. That's how legally it is defined, and the real, I think, money will be made by people who are building on top of it. And that's where I think we would like to make sure that you understand these aspects of how the world works in the investment worlds. So it's not necessarily that everything will tie back to EOS as a token, that it will not necessarily mean that whatever Block.one is going to do will directly impact it. So thanks once again for joining. And as I said, we will bring back more and more news, and definitely we are going to share more details about our DC plans. Especially we are hosting a private meeting with all the community members as well as with some investors, and we will definitely reach out with more details. So thank you once again for all the subscribes and likes you have been and the shares you are doing on our YouTube channel. And based on your comments, I think a lot of you have already asked for the live show to be back, and we are definitely planning that, and hopefully it will be soon. We'll be back with your question and answer on YouTube. So thanks once again, bye, and look forward to next few days and some more great news coming from EOS.io.